Well, good afternoon, White County. Hope you're doing well this afternoon and enjoying this 40, 44, 45-degree temperature. It's going to get colder before the day's over with. I want you to know that here at White County, we've been working with our local officials and our public safety, public works teams of both the county and the cities, getting prepared for this winter storm that is coming into later on uh, into tonight, early morning hours, Friday, and into Friday. I encourage you, as our citizens and visitors to White County, to be prepared for this event. We could eventually have some power outages and we certainly will have some dangerous road conditions on the onset. And I'll let Chief Strength talk a little bit more about that. But I want you to be prepared and be ready for what is coming. We are preparing our road crews and our public safety crews to be able to manage and work through this event. We ask you to please do not be traveling tomorrow unless it's absolutely an emergency and you need to. I would encourage all of you to get all your groceries, your medications, things of that nature ready today. These are the final few hours for that. And just be prepared to stay at home and weather this storm with us over Friday and into late Saturday afternoon is when hopefully our temperatures will go back up enough so we can see some relief. Be safe out there, White County, and I'm going to let Chief Strength talk about our current weather conditions that are coming up. And if you need anything from us, please do not hesitate. We're here for you and here to serve you during this time. Chief Strength?
Well, thank you, Director Murphy. Don Strength in the White County Emergency Operations Center. We've been following the weather forecast now since really for about a week and a half, and we're now within that 24-hour window when the precipitation should begin across North Georgia. And yeah, the forecast has gone through some changes over the last 24 to 48 hours. There was a period of time there we thought that we might be looking at a significant amount of snow, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 inches. But the forecast has kind of trimmed back just a little bit on the snow amount. I don't think we're going to see much of a difference in the impact. I think the impact is still going to be there. We held a briefing at 12:30 this afternoon in our White County Emergency Operations Center with the National Weather Service out of Peachtree City and all of our public safety and county government partners here in White County. We met with them after the National Weather Service briefing at 12:30, and we talked to each individual department. That includes the municipalities of Cleveland and Helen, and we discussed where we are and where we think we're going to go and how to mitigate, respond, and mitigate and recover from a winter storm, if indeed we do get that late tonight and into tomorrow. So a lot of meetings, a lot of preparation, a lot of thoughts, a lot of plans are in place. The governor of the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp, has now issued a state of emergency, which covers North Georgia, where the worst of the weather is anticipated. And so it's now we've done all of our planning, and now we get ready to respond and recover from whatever Mother Nature throws at us. You know, we really try hard to give you the best idea of what we think is going to happen. But look, Mother Nature is going to do Mother Nature. And as often is the case during winter weather, there will be surprises. Things will take place and will happen that we didn't really expect. And some areas that were expecting certain things won't get it. That's just the way it works here in the South. And so here's where we are. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at some of the different graphics that we have prepared for you. And we'll kind of show you what we think is going to be the case as this gets underway in the morning. So the National Weather Service in the National Weather Service office in Peachtree City has now upgraded North Georgia to a winter storm warning. The winter storm warning replaces the winter storm watch. A warning now means that it's most likely going to happen, and that warning will go into effect at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning and continue through 7 a.m. Saturday morning for the possibility of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and treacherous driving conditions across North Georgia. Power outages certainly will be a possibility, especially in those areas that get more ice and that wind kicks up later on in the day on Friday. So let's take a look at a few other graphics here that will kind of paint the picture for what we think is going to happen. So what really has changed in the past 24 hours is the snow amounts and the ice amounts. Timing really hasn't changed that much. Impacts across Northeast Georgia, White County in particular, really hasn't changed that much. We're just tweaking the amounts of snow and ice just a bit. So we're looking at minor to low impacts down in South Georgia, moderate impacts across Middle Georgia, up into North Georgia, Atlanta Metro. Look, let's face it and be honest. It's rough in Atlanta on a beautiful sunny day at 72 degrees. You throw any precipitation in the mix whatsoever, and conditions go south in Atlanta just because of sheer volume. So any ice or snow at all is going to cause problems in Atlanta. If you have plans to drive into Atlanta or anywhere even close to Atlanta tomorrow, I highly suggest you change those plans. Don't put yourself in that situation. You know, we remember the situation back in 2014. Now, a lot of changes have been made since then, so hopefully that never happens again. But why put yourself in that situation if you don't absolutely have to? So then when we get up into North Georgia, you see that high risk. We're talking 2+ inches of snow, sleet accumulations, and some freezing rain, ice accumulations of up to about 1/10 of an inch. And then we throw those gusty winds in there, 20 to 30 miles per hour at times during the day tomorrow. I think the best opportunity for those wind gusts to cause any problems would be later in the day, assuming we do get that 1/10 of an inch of ice on top of a couple of 2 or 3 inches of snow. That just simply adds to the weight load on the trees and the power lines. And so then you throw that wind in there. Doesn't take much to start bringing down power lines and trees and causing those power outages. So as Director Murphy said just a few moments ago, you do need to be prepared for power outages. I don't anticipate catastrophic, widespread, long duration power outages. But folks, understand all it's going to take is a fluctuation of the track of the low by 50 miles, a fluctuation of the temperatures by 1, 2, or 3 degrees, and that is going to change the amounts and the type of precipitation dramatically. So very subtle changes as this thing starts to unfold in the morning could change everything drastically. So you always want to take the course of least regret. You always want to be prepared for the absolute worst case scenario. So that's why we're telling you, you need to be prepared to shelter in place. You're going to need to make sure you have enough food to last you a couple, 2 or 3 days. Make sure that you have a way of heating your home in the event that you do lose power, assuming that you heat with electricity. Make sure you've got water, medication. Make sure you take care of your pets and take care of your neighbors as we get through this. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll show you the expected snowfall amounts across North Georgia. If you'll look real close up there at Gainesville, the latest model run is telling us 1 inch. If you go a little bit further north, we're looking at 1 to 2 inches. And then up there along the Tennessee state line, we're at 1 to 3 inches of snow. And then up in Northwest Georgia, we're talking 2 to 3 inches of snow. Now, I know it's really confusing as to why the models have backed off of the snow amount. It's not because we're going to have less precipitation. It's because we're going to have a warm nose layer of air that's going to move up off the Gulf of Mexico in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which will limit the snow production in the lower levels of the atmosphere because the liquid is going to be warmer at the onset. At the surface, it's certainly going to be cold enough. Anything that falls is going to freeze beginning tomorrow morning, and that may be the case pretty much all day long across northeast Georgia, though we could switch over to freezing rain 3, 4, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and that could continue for 4 or 5 hours until we get to the end of the precipitation. Again, the exact track of that low and the exact amount of warm air that's pulled up into the low off of the Gulf of Mexico is going to determine how much you have accumulating in your front yard as we get this underway tomorrow. So there is still room for the boom bust factor. Boom being we get more than we think we're going to get. Bust would be it's just a busted forecast, and we don't get anywhere close to what we're expecting. The trend has been lowering the snow amounts and raising the ice amounts. And certainly that's not what we wanted to see at this point. We wanted 6, 7 inches of snow and no ice at all. We can deal with that, no problem. Ice is where we start to have issues. No doubt there will be travel issues across White County throughout the day tomorrow. And I think the travel issues begin early in the morning, and we go from no problem at all to treacherous driving really quick, because like I said, we're not going to have to go through a transition where we got to wait for the ground to cool off enough to support accumulation. The second it starts falling from the clouds, it will start accumulating. So we'll go from nothing, perfectly clear roads to snow-covered roads, probably within less than 30 minutes once this thing gets underway in the morning. State routes through White County are, I think, going to be in pretty good shape because the brining process actually started yesterday, and they've been working it again today. So I would expect the state routes to be in pretty good shape throughout the duration. It's the secondary roads that are most likely going to carry most of the issues as we go throughout your Friday. Next slide, we'll take a look at the expected ice accumulations. And you'll see right there across northeast Georgia, we're in that 0.07 to 0.16 range, that being about 1/4 of an inch of ice, perhaps. So ordinarily, that wouldn't cause quite a widespread issue, but if you have that on top of maybe 2 or 3 inches of snow, and then you factor in that 20 to 30 mile per hour wind, then that 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch of ice does become significant. So we just understand, again, I don't think it's going to be a catastrophic widespread icing problem or power outage problem, but the opportunity will certainly be there for there to be some power outages as we go through this on your Friday. And again, if the low tracks a little bit differently, if the temperatures are a little warmer or a little cooler than expected, that higher ice amount could creep into White County, or we could stay right at 32 degrees and or below, and the ice problem could sink a little bit further south, and we may stay more snow. That's what we're hoping for, but we cannot guarantee it. Next slide we go to is going to show us the weather conditions at 6 p.m. on Friday. And you can see that mostly rain for South Georgia, freezing rain, maybe from about Macon up to just south of Atlanta, and then a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain across the Atlanta metro. And for most of North Georgia, extreme North Georgia, we're talking snow mixed with sleet at times, perhaps changing over to freezing rain late in the period. We're talking 3, 4, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and remaining a mix all the way through the end of the precipitation, which I think will be about 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow evening. So we take a look at the next slide, and that's going to be 6 p.m. until midnight Friday. You can see that all solid liquid rain line moves much further north by 6 p.m. tomorrow afternoon to basically South Atlanta metro. The mix, mainly freezing rain, there's a large area there from Atlanta all the way to the Tennessee state line where we have mainly freezing rain taking place at that time. So Freezing rain will be covering a large part of the state by 6 o'clock Friday afternoon, and snow possibly mixed with sleet, maybe a little freezing rain up here in northeast Georgia. But you'll notice that pink down there in Hall County, northern Hall County, and also over in Habersham. So freezing rain will be in the neighborhood by 6 o'clock Friday evening. That's what at this time has us a little bit nervous about this forecast, to be quite honest. So the next slide we go to is going to show us the weather conditions. We're talking midnight Friday night as we get into Saturday, and the rain, precipitation, whatever it is at that point, should be ending across White County by the time we get to midnight tomorrow night. I actually think it's probably going to end a little sooner than that. And so all the precipitation moving out of Georgia by midnight on your Friday night, but that area circled back over to the west, we could be looking at some snow flurries and the wraparound moisture behind the low, and that will move across North Georgia. So even though the main body of precipitation should be leaving by midnight tomorrow night, we could have snow flurries for the remainder of Friday night, even into early Saturday morning. No doubt we will drop well below freezing Friday night, so anything that's left on the ground will freeze solid as we go throughout the overnight hours. Residual moisture on the roadways, mainly secondary roadways, and north of Helen, north end of White County at 129, maybe 356 up around Unicoi and all the way to the north, we would expect there probably to be at least some patches of black ice throughout the overnight Friday night into Saturday. I think Saturday we are going to be able to thaw out just enough, and with that 20 to 30 mile per hour wind, it may evaporate enough of the moisture to where driving conditions should start to improve by mid-morning Saturday. Hopefully we get rid of the moisture on the roadways Saturday afternoon and only have to deal with scattered spotty black ice on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then certainly by Sunday afternoon, we get well up into the mid-40s, and we should dry out nicely, and everything should be fine to head back to work and school on your Monday. So let's take a look at the radar loop now. This is a futurecast radar. This is just a depiction of what the models think it's going to look like. And I think we have two of them that we're going to look at, and we're going to compare the two. This first one shows more of a snowstorm than ice for White County. And I'm going to let it loop again because this starts at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll let this run through and then it'll come back over and we'll start this one over again. And I want to show you where this model says the snow is at 4 a.m. It's crossing the Alabama-Georgia state line. And by 7, 8 a.m., it's moving into White County. It's not going to take it long to move from East Alabama up into Northeast Georgia. And you'll see that Northeast Georgia stays blue for most of this period with a little mix right there toward the end, and then a change over to maybe freezing rain at sunset on Friday evening. And then by midnight, it's out of the state. That's the snowier model. Now let's take a look at the icy model. That would be the next one. There you go. We see mostly a mix in Alabama, very little snow in Alabama. Then look at that red coming across the state up there. That is freezing rain. And if this were to be the correct solution, then I think we would be looking at much more dangerous conditions as far as icing is concerned. Trees and power lines coming down, long duration power outages, if that second model were to verify. Honestly, I think we're somewhere in between these two models based on the latest data that keeps coming in. But understand, we're almost done with looking at model data at this point, because now you start looking out the window to see what's actually happening. And that's a figure of speech. We're looking at what's really happening off to our west. Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. Eventually, we'll be looking at Alabama to see where that snow rain line is setting up as it moves off to the east across Georgia. Then we'll have a much, much better idea of exactly what is going to happen. But you need to be prepared for all possibilities, and we're preaching that to you folks here in White County and the surrounding counties that may be watching this this afternoon. We are now under a winter storm warning, which will kick in at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and run through 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Be prepared for the worst case scenario. Be prepared for power outages, a couple of days worth of food. Think about going primitive tent camping in the national forest. What would you take with you if that's where you were going to go this afternoon? That's what you need to have in your home so that you will be prepared. So we're going to stand up the Emergency Operations Center at midnight tonight. We're here. Our 911 center will go to full level staffing at midnight tonight and will continue as long as there is a need. So if you have a need, don't hesitate to call White County Public Safety or call the non-emergency number for 911 if you don't have an emergency. If you have an emergency, then just simply dial 911. Don't forget to follow us on social media, both on YouTube and on our Facebook page. And also don't forget to sign up for our Code Red alerts. You can go to the White County website and go to emergency management, and you'll find a link there to be able to sign up for Code Red. That's scrolling at the bottom of the screen actually as I speak. So you can also text White CO alerts, that's White Co alerts with an S, to 99411. That's 99411. And you'll be provided with a link to sign up for our Code Red messaging. You'll get all the weather information, and if we start closing roads or road conditions become hazardous across the county, we'll be putting out information on Code Red. It's a very good way to get the information instantly on your phone. Of course, we'll have that information on our social media as well. And we will be doing these live updates periodically throughout this entire event. I'm about to disappear for several hours because I'm back in here at midnight tonight. But we will continue with live updates as necessary. And certainly after things get underway in the morning, we may even have some live broadcasts from outside showing you the road conditions and talking to you about how things are across White County. So to reiterate, once again, we've now been upgraded to a winter storm warning in White County, Georgia. And we are now about to move into that mode where we will be ready for response and recovery. And we hope that each and every one of you will stay home and stay safe. Don't go out tomorrow morning just to see if you can find snow, because I promise you, once it starts, it's going to get bad out there really quick, and you don't need to get trapped out there on the roadways. The last thing we need to do is to go out and rescue people that have slid off the road. It would be much better if you just stay at home so that we don't have to tie up emergency personnel and vehicles to come get you off the side of the road, which we're going to do. But we hope that we can keep that to a very bare minimum, and only for those people who have absolutely no other choice but to be out there. So we're going to wrap things up. We appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon. Every time we do this, our numbers keep going higher and higher. So be sure you like us on Facebook. Be sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Be sure you share us with your friends. Ask your friends to share with their friends. Word of mouth is great as far as getting the word out there that we do this on social media. And we'll have good local information for you throughout the duration of this event here at White County Public Safety. Have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you back in here later this evening.